Hi, welcome to the Microsoft Spotlight podcast with me, John Jarvis, and my co-host, Andrew Moran. Andrew, would you like to introduce today's guest?
So I'd like to introduce I can't remember now how many Microsoft guests we've had on, but we now have April Dunnam. So would you like to introduce yourself, April?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I watched a few of the episodes, so it's been really cool to be invited on here. My name is April Dunnam, and I'm a Power Platform lead advocate here at Microsoft.
And I say before, obviously, you was working for Microsoft. You was also a Power Platform MVP as well.
Yeah, I was. So I was MVP in Power Apps and Power Automates and did my own consulting business before I moved over here to Microsoft.
So how's life at Microsoft since transition from obviously owning your own consulting business to working for the big corporate cloud company that they are?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting, right? Seeing for one, how the Kool-Aid's made, products that you've worked on the other side for so many years and worked with and everything to see how it is on the other side of things has been pretty interesting. And then I think that on top of just, I did my own consulting stuff and we're really small, just a small shop, and kind of transitioning from being your own boss and just like the small business lifestyle to, one of the biggest businesses you could go to work for is definitely interesting. It was a big adjustment period. This is my second year I'm here. I'm going to have my anniversary probably in December, I guess, in my second year at Microsoft. And the first year probably was just getting used to what corporate America is like, because it had been so many years. I mean, I was doing consulting for about 8 years. So I just, you forget what it's like, but it's been really fun. It's, kind of new challenges, just, and just exciting. It's been overall a great experience.
So obviously you joined Microsoft, obviously, during the time where the world was obviously being a bit mad and crazy. So how's that been for you? Because obviously I've been very much the same. I joined my company for Jiu-Jitsu literally I felt like the first week of lockdown in the UK, and I've not met anyone. So how's that been for you over in the States?
Yeah, that was definitely weird. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us, have been through this, but starting with not, meeting any of my team. Actually, my original team, I joined in the partner organization, and I never met any of them in person. I think one person I think I met right before all the craziness happened at Ignite when I did a session there before I joined. But yeah, my whole other team I never met, and then doing like virtual, introductory training, the NEO stuff that you go through, and just the whole getting used to how things are that way with virtual. I mean, I was used to working myself remotely, and that's how I did all my consulting. So that wasn't a big shift, but just starting at a new organization and never meeting in person the people that you're actually working with is a little bit weird and hard to get used to, I think. I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully things getting back to normal someday and getting to meet some of the people that I've now been working with for almost 2 years in real life.
So when are things going to get back to normal within the world of Microsoft? Is there like a time frame for that?
No, I think, the last thing that was announced is they're just going to stop trying to predict at this point when things are going to be back to normal and keep business as usual, with remote for now, since, all the variants and everything going on. So I don't know exactly when that will be for sure. It's just a waiting game at this point.
Awesome. So tell us a bit more about your role, because obviously Power Platform is quite a newish product within the Microsoft stack. It's something I've played with slightly, and John's our resident expert since he passed an exam for it. So I'll point that right back at you, John. So you wanted to explain to what you actually do within the world of Microsoft?
Yeah, so my role now is on the advocacy team. So we kind of, as a whole, we advocate for and to the developer community. And so I'm on the Power Platform team, which is what Donna Sarkar kind of started off that team for. We have different organizations, different focus areas within advocacy, for obviously Power Platform's one. .NET's a big focus area, the whole M365 stack. So kind of what I'm in charge of doing now is kind of leading that Power Platform advocacy team and really focusing on how can we help get new developers. When I say developers, I mean, professional or whatever you want to call them, traditional developers with actual coding backgrounds to citizen developers as well, into the platform, making sure that they have all of the resources that they need to get started, and then making sure that we're developing deep relationships with them so that we can get their feedback on how we can make the product better and surface that up to the product team. So that's kind of what my day-to-day and what my role is here in this new advocacy role that I've been in.
Nice. So like, let's take it back a little bit. You're from Tulsa, Oklahoma, so also known as the second home of Chandler Bing. Um,
Good,
so
you're
where
up to
did the
date on your
passion?
friends trivia.
So where's the love of IT come from? Has it been since a young age, or yeah? So when is it when does it all start from you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, no one in my family was super technical, didn't really run in the family per se, but I just kind of found out a love for computers early on. Got into building computers, like to know what was going on behind that big, case. So I think when I was about 9 or 10, I built my first computer. And from there, just I took a lot of classes, obviously in school, for different computer classes, typing and Photoshop classes and all of that, any of the stuff that I could do. And eventually kind of found a love for, just web development, websites, like WordPress was kind of out when I was in, just about graduating high school. So I got into using that, and I kind of worked my way through college doing some simple WordPress sites and a little lightweight, web development there. And I know I really liked it, but I wasn't sure for a while, like exactly what I wanted to do. Did I, because it was just very basic, kind of more configuration, I guess. I didn't get into heavy development until later on in college when I finally ventured into this internship. I knew I wanted to do some kind of something in IT, but I had the opportunity to intern at a casino because I'm a Native American, I'm Cherokee, and we have a Native American casino here that I got an internship program with. And I was able to go and rotate all the different IT departments and just get a feel for here's basically everything you could do in an IT field from, business analysis to help desk to eventually the development department. And that's where I found my love for development and kind of went with it ever since. They were doing some SharePoint work then and implementing SharePoint, not to date myself too much, 2007 at the time. And so I was kind of thrown into helping them build some custom, web parts and build out some functionality on there. I was given a book headfirst into C# and said, here you go, learn to code and help us with this. And that's what I did on the job there on the internship. And I kind of fell in love with it.
That's awesome. I mean, obviously, many of our guests that we've had on the past basically seem to have fell into IT by accident. Obviously, clearly you had a passion from an early age, and obviously got on from there. But also, you have a couple of interesting facts about yourself, and obviously your life before IT. I mean, you were obviously in a movie for your school, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was having trouble thinking of any, really interesting facts about me, but I guess that was one, so I've always been really into music, and I was in the local marching band here in Broken Arrow, which is a suburb of Tulsa. And so when we're doing that, we're pretty, well known in the marching band circuit, the Broken Arrow band, and we have this kind of rivalry between the Broken Arrow and then Union, which is another marching band here locally. And we actually had someone come and do a movie on that rivalry between the two major marching bands in Oklahoma, and I was in that movie as part of the playing clarinet there.
It sounds very much like Bring It On.
Yeah.
Just a marching band version.
I think that was when that movie honestly was like out, because this would have been, I don't know, 2005 or something like that, 2004. So yeah, it would have been right kind of in that era of that. So yeah, it's pretty much a good way to describe it.
So obviously, following on from that as well, I know that obviously you got to sing, you got to play the harmonica, which that's a skill within itself, and you attend open mic nights as well.
Oh yeah. So I mean, like I said, I've always been really involved in music. My family's kind of a musical family. Both of my uncles played in bands growing up, so it was kind of always in my blood. I was in choir in addition to the marching band stuff. So I sing and I play harmonica. My husband's the guitar player, so we do a lot of acoustic shows at open mic nights. With some of our friends too that are musicians along here. Really, just something that I love to do. That's something outside of work where I just need to decompress and not think about the technical stuff side of things and just have fun. So that, and of course the band nerd and playing the clarinet and being first chair clarinet and all that in band is just kind of, that's all about music.
So when did you actually get time for that? Because you started developing and started working on SharePoint, and then how far along after you started doing that did you start working in the community and start talking at conferences and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was kind of like a long road. Personally myself, I've always been extremely shy, especially early on. I mean, to where I wouldn't even order, myself in restaurants. I would make my mom do it when I was a kid, and that kind of stuck with me for a while, that shyness. So it took a while to really get involved in the community. I mean, I had a job where I was doing some SharePoint development, and the guy that I roomed with in the office there, we shared an office, and he was really involved in the local SharePoint group. And that was a lot of what I was doing at this company, obviously, doing some SharePoint development. And he kind of convinced me to tag along with him one day to the user group just to see what it was like, because, I was pretty new at that point, pretty green, a lot I had to learn. So I went and kind of just started getting involved slowly there, just attending, seeing what it was like, and trying to come out of my shell a bit so you even get the courage to talk with these other people, because that's just how painfully shy I was. And eventually I just really liked it, the sense of community, and realized that these people aren't really there to judge me. They're there to help, and they're not as scary as I had in my mind, that like, oh my gosh, you're going to realize I don't know, how to do this, or how these permissions are, or whatever it might be, right? And they're going to laugh at me and all that. You just build up, I think, these assumptions in your head when you're just getting into something new like that. But I eventually got over it, and I started speaking at that group as well. And then eventually, years later, this was probably, at least a good 5 years into when in my career before I did, but I started leading the group and just getting more into the community and my speaking at that point, and kind of moved to more regional events, and then, national events. And I just kind of, started blogging, and then eventually my YouTube. So it really just kind of sparked and grew from there. The more comfortable that I got with it, and the more I was able to kind of get out of my shell a bit.
That's wicked. I mean, obviously, working within the community myself, and obviously know how difficult it can be. I mean, when I first basically got up as like public speaking, it wasn't something the norm. I mean, the largest group I've ended up speaking to is like 400 people, and the best way I did it was just throw myself into it and just generally just be yourself. I mean, what would you recommend to another woman that's basically coming into the market space that wants to basically start doing public speaking? What kind of tips and hints would you give to them, and any kind of support as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would think, don't let any fears or the insecurities that you have stop you. Kind of like, I think that held me back personally for too long. I probably could have got involved in the community way earlier on if I wouldn't have let those, nagging voices behind my head really get to me. So I would say, don't be afraid, to reach out. That's one of the things that helped me, is I asked someone in the community that I knew that was speaking at these things, like just for advice, like, hey, how do you be a good speaker? How do you get up there and, get the courage to talk about something? How do you come up with ideas of what to talk about? I mean, is this thing that I have in mind stupid, or would other people be interested? Because that's another thing that I kind of dealt with, right? Is not knowing, like, why would people care about what I have to say when there's all these other experts out there that are already kind of talking about similar things. So I think reach out to some people that you see that maybe you admire, that you watch in the community, that are speaking on things that you want to talk about, and just ask them for advice, because I don't think I've ever did that and asked for someone advice and they've turned me down or anything. Everyone's been very receptive and open to that. So I would say just leverage the fact that, the community, they're the good people and they're here to help, and just get their advice. And one of the ways to get started, and what really helped me, is someone offered to co-present with me. So rather than just me going out there by myself, first thing, the time I wanted to talk, we split the deal 50-50, and we kind of co-presented, and she helped guide me through it. So, I mean, that would be another thing that could be good to ease your way into it, is asking someone if they'll do like a co-presentation with you, because I know that personally really helped me.
So would you say that was like a mentor for you, that person?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like a mentor, and really helped me out. And I had a few, along the way. There's several people that I would ping in the community for advice and tips, and to help, and do co-presentations and things like that. So I think getting a mentor, or just a circle of people that you trust, is really helpful.
I mean, I know obviously you're passionate about getting more women into tech. I mean, you've spoken at obviously several local WIC groups within your local area. So what do you think basically we could do as a community to help support getting more women into tech? whether that's within that technical role itself or basically working for a technical company. Because say some of our guests we've had on, they're not technical at all, but they work for the likes of Microsoft, they work for other big organizations. So what can we do to obviously encourage more women, probably at an earlier age, to start getting into the world of tech?
I think it needs to start with, we need to start breaking down stigmas, and we need to get more visibility to the women that are already out there in the field doing great things. A lot of times as a young woman, if you're not seeing other people that look like you doing the thing, it's going to make you think that there's not a place for you in that area to do what you want to do. So I think if we, and it's getting better and better, since I can tell even from when I started out in tech versus where we are now, it's gotten exponentially better. We're seeing a lot more women keynoting events. We talked about Donna earlier. She's a great example of that. A super smart, compassionate woman that's out there keynoting some of the biggest events, hosting big events like, Ignite and all of that. So I think the more that we have people like that out in the spotlight, showing other women and young girls that, this is possible, the better. And then, you did mention, you brought up a good fact there of, some of these people might not be super technical. And I think that's another thing or stigma that we have to break, that to get into technology, you have to be like the coder person, right? So there's so many different areas in technology that you can go into that maybe aren't, being a programmer. And I think we need to highlight those and be better about showing all of the different areas involved in IT that you can get into, and servicing that up to young girls.
That's something I said yesterday to on the podcast we recorded yesterday, was that what's an IT role nowadays? It's tell me a typical role within IT. You can't.
I mean, yeah, there's not, right? And there's just so many these days, different roles, from, governance and adoption to, advocacy, right? That's the whole, big area too, like just getting more people passionate about the technology, to the uber technical programming, to, business analysis. There's just so many areas of possibilities.
So you've got IT sales, software sales, software, like it's
product managers.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's so big now that.
I think, John, for a good example for us, obviously, one of our previous guests, Anne Michaels, she obviously was the product marketing manager for Microsoft Teams. She's now obviously moved back to her native country in Germany and become the COO of Microsoft Austria. So, women out there can get to any position within any company if they're passionate enough, if they're driven enough, and basically put themselves out there. I mean, Anne was very open and honest with us on our episode that basically she's not a technical person. And then when she had to do technical speaking at Ignite, for example, like PowerShell, she had to basically go out, learn enough about PowerShell to be able to be confident to basically do that actual session in front of loads of technical male and females that are basically listening.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. And I think, even if, no matter how technical you are, there's always going to be areas that you're focused on and that and there's areas that you don't. So knowing, again, who in the community to bring in when maybe you don't know something and you need to talk eloquently about it. I mean, again, asking them for help, like, hey, I need to do this session on PowerShell, knowing someone in the community to reach out for, tips on what should I talk about. I mean, that's the great thing about community. You can reach out to anyone out there and for tips like that, for, gaps that you need to fill.
Definitely. I mean, I've spent time in and out of the community. Not everyone that I've basically ever dealt with, have been always there. So if I want to ask a question or have an issue with anything, all I have to do is just ping them on Twitter, ping them on LinkedIn, and they'll generally come back to you with the answer that you're looking for, or give you that support and guidance. And I say one of the things that I'm really trying to do with this podcast and stuff outside of this podcast as well that I'm trying to do within the UK, is try and support more women in tech, whether that's in technical roles or doing other roles within the IT community, and find women that are basically there, want to be mentors to help these other women that are basically coming through and inspiring that next generation. Because I think we have to basically get in there early to basically help women along. And one of the examples that I'm going to use is one of our previous guests, Sophie. me and John were basically, when we spoke to her, just in awe of her passion, her drive to basically be a part. She's there doing videos on LinkedIn, and when we had her on our podcast, she just basically oozed, you know, IT. She wanted to know everything. She wanted to get involved, and it's one of the reasons why I then basically invited her to come along and be a part of our session that we're delivering at the Safe Coast Summit in a couple of weeks' time, because, you know, women that are basically coming to the market space at a young age, you know, I think we need to help support them more, whether that's, you know, people like myself and John from, you know, the male community supporting them, or obviously finding mentors within the women community that are there to basically, you know, just give people that push along.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I just, you know, one of the things, both of you, for what you're doing here, just highlighting, you know, women in tech like this. I mean, it's a good platform to be able to show, again, the breadth. Like you mentioned, you had so many guests on that maybe come from completely non-traditional backgrounds and found their way into tech, and just being able to show to other women, to young girls, that there's so many paths into this, and there's so many different areas that you can get into it. And it's really cool. And it's great to have, you know, other, you know, non-women, male allies and all that kind of also leading the cause. And I do think we need, as women, especially those that have been in the field for a while and that are maybe in a position to mentor, do need to do, you know, a better job at lifting other women up and making sure that they're recognized. You know, that's one of the things that I try to be really cognizant about, is anytime that I see, you know, another woman in the community doing something great or just really passionate, right, has that spark, trying to do whatever I can to lift them up, whether it's just simply a retweet of something that they did, or, you know, shouting them out in a conference or whatever. I think if we keep that in the back of our mind all the time, then it's going to help with the cycle. We're going to get more, uplift more women and get them excited about getting into tech.
I know obviously you do a lot of YouTube videos. You've got quite a few thousand followers that I've basically had a look at. I mean, do you ever encounter any like negativity through that? Because I know, like, when we spoke to one of our previous guests, Layla, she does like net coding through Twitch, and basically she was basically getting a lot of negativity through it, and obviously having to get her moderators to basically kick people out. Do you ever experience any like negative comments that basically post on YouTube that, you know, you sometimes feel a bit of, why am I doing this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess that just comes with the territory, and it's probably honestly a little bit worse when you're a woman in tech as well, because you just have different things that you have to deal with. I do get quite a bit of that, unfortunately, but it's one of those things where you have to try to ignore it and not let it get to you. I mean, it's all kinds of things that you get from, you know, just you know, insults to your physical appearance, to, you know, just kind of those I don't know if when you call it mansplaining is the right term, you know, right type comments and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's something that does come with the territory. I do probably once a day I get something like that that's negative, and luckily YouTube is pretty good about having things to kind of filter out and block some of those comments and hide it, to make it not really, you know, take over your whole life and get to you too bad. So it did bother me a lot in the beginning, and it's one of those things that I've just learned to accept, that there's going to be people like that out there, not totally supportive of what you're doing and looking to take you down, but you can't let that get to you, because you're impacting for the positive more people than you are for the negative. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that obviously you post quite regularly on YouTube videos. Have you ever come across a time where you felt like, you know, you kind of like burning out and need to take some time away from doing any kind of community work?
yeah, I actually honestly just recently went through this. So I do post a lot on my YouTube. I mean, at least once a week. I was even doing twice a week for a while there, you know, and that's in addition to the normal day-to-day that I'm having to do. So it was getting to be quite a bit of work, and then that faced with, you know, it's a lot of work to record the videos and then produce them, because, you know, it's just me. I don't have a producer or anyone else helping me with this stuff. So it's pretty time consuming. And then you pair that with what we were just talking about, where the negative comments that come in, and you just start thinking, man, I'm putting all this work into it and I'm getting, you know, some hate. And I'm just trying to put out some free content to help people. And it did get to me recently. So I ended up taking a couple weeks off just of doing really any major, anything on YouTube, and really anything major on social media or blogging or anything like that. And I have to say, I probably should have did that sooner. I think I waited till like pretty much the breaking point to take that time off, and just to recharge. And it's definitely helped taking that time off. So
even with content creation, you need a break. You need some time off, like anything, and especially when you're getting trolls making, I'm guessing, the same comments over and over again. Like they're never, trolls are never original, which I think is probably like the easiest ways to kind of, ignore them, because they don't say anything different. It's probably, I could probably guess what some of the comments are, and it's never ever original, but keep going with it.
yeah, it never is. It's funny. I do this session called Contributors Assemble with Hugo Bernay and David Warner on the community, and that was one of the slides we have. It's about how to get started in community and all that. And one of the things that we have is like these things that you have to counter against when you start getting involved. And one of them is trolls, and we outline like all the different types of trolls that you usually face when you start putting yourself out there and producing content and getting involved. And so yeah, it is there. It's not original at all. There's several different types of trolls that you have, and that's one of the things I love about that session we do is highlighting those.
So what have you got? The ones that you said, get back to the kitchen, I'm guessing is a one I see quite often on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a typical one. That the person that knows more than you do and wants to make sure that they know. I mean, pretty standard.
And the ones who always the one with Twitter the most is the people who don't have their face or anything as their profile, and they're talking about how the person looks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the best, right? It's like you don't even show your own face, but you're commenting on my appearance here. So sorry if it's so offensive to you.
Cool.
Anyway, get back to the subject.
Yeah, well, it's all obviously relevant stuff, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We got to have these conversations in the world, because we can't brush them under the carpet anymore. There's enough hate out there that basically cannot be ignored, and it's down to people that to stand up and fight against that, and basically say this is wrong, and change that stigmatism that people have.
So April, so what's like your usual day now, with your content creation, with work, and what you do at Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, I think now that I'm kind of leading the Power Platform team, a lot of it has shifted a bit where, it's kind of figuring out the general strategy for, what areas do we really need to focus on? Where maybe is our documentation lacking on things for the Power Platform? Where do we need to do more, videos, content on, and figuring out the general strategy and like what are some pain points that people are experiencing? And then, obviously still executing on that. So, a lot of we do, like I just got through, for example, I was busy for a few months planning the Powerful Devs conference that we had on Tuesday. So, everything from figuring out, when to have it, lining all the speakers up, figuring what topics we should cover, and just all of those logistics and, handling the keynotes. I got to interview Scott Guthrie, which was like a big career milestone for me, being able to talk with him and interview him. So yeah, that's a
big name within the world of the community.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. So, I mean, that is a perfect example of what the day-to-day is getting those kind of bigger events like that, like a conference that can appeal to maybe traditional developers looking to get into the Power Platform and use low-code technology, and getting and preparing that conference, getting that out there, promoting it. So that took up quite a bit of my time. So things like that, things like, Microsoft Learn modules, getting those, and just partnering with other people in the org, just to, maybe it's creating templates. That's an area I'm passionate about as well. How can we create Power Apps templates that people can plug and play and start using, so they don't have to, be burdened with creating something from scratch and not maybe knowing where to start. So it just really, I think it's what I love about the role, is I have the freedom to define, and figure out what I think is best, what the community actually needs to get more people using the Power Platform and engaged in it, and then I can go execute on that.
I mean, I've delved into Power Platform on a couple of occasions. I mean, I'm nowhere going to be anywhere near as technical as yourself, but I do it enough to basically, help me within my job role. So just basically getting the Office 365 roadmap published from a particular RSS feed in Power Automate into a Microsoft Teams channel. I've used it within my actual role at Fujitsu, where I was basically, I had one of the weirdest request from a customer, and I had to basically use Power Automate, use Azure runbooks, PowerShell scripting, and you know, Power Automate has a lot of power. And I think for me, it's something I'd like to spend more time on, but I just don't have it. I mean, I'm just like literally scrolling through like YouTube channels, like I could watch that video. That's quite interesting. That, you know, definitely helped me.
Yeah, I mean, Power Automate is probably like the way I would say that most people get into the Power Platform, just because, I mean, it's something that anyone can get instant benefit from, you know, just from automating your day-to-day, whether it's, you know, like synchronizing your messages or, you know, whatever it might be, like you said, posting roadmap stuff out there. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and that's kind of like the gateway oftentimes into the Power Platform. Then you start experimenting with, well, I can build, you know, put this into a Power App so that I can actually intake information on my mobile device or whatever it might be. And that kind of just leads into all the other functionality that we have in the Power Platform.
Yeah, it's such a new thing to me, but obviously it's been around for quite some time now, hasn't it? Power Platform, from like the early days, and obviously it has a new name.
Yeah, I mean, the Power Platform itself, right? I think it's been what, five, maybe 6 years now that it's really been around. So I mean, it's Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Apps have been around a while. Power Virtual Agents is kind of the newest kid on the block that we have with the Power Platform, where we can now do low-code chatbots. So yeah, I mean, most of the tools have been around quite a while now, so they're out of their you know, infancy phase and into really at the point where we're starting to add in, you know, even rich capability, even more integration into different technologies and tools with it as well.
Sorry. So April, we spoke about kind of how you started in your career, kind of what you're doing now. So what's your next steps? What's your goals for the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, you know, right now this kind of lead role for the Power Platform Advocacy is so new. So, I mean, my immediate goals are to just do the best that I can with that and see, you know, success with this Power Platform team, grow it, hoping to add more people. You know, it's myself and 2 other people. Anyway, so yeah, just really just kind of seeing through this role here and how I can grow the advocacy team for Power Platform and make even a bigger impact there. And then, you know, eventually, I don't know, possibly, you know, getting deeper into the product and maybe making more influence on what actually comes in future roadmaps for the product could be really cool as well. But I'm definitely
one of the questions I asked, you know, most of our Microsoft guests is, you know, do you see yourself being there for a very long time? I mean, obviously, people that we've spoken to have been there for like 10, 15 years. I mean, do you see yourself, you know, being there for, you know, to probably the end of your IT career, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that I would want to leave anytime soon. I really love what I'm doing. I mean, the Power Platform is just something that I'm super passionate about. I think it's a great area that we have here with low code. I think it's something that's only going to keep growing, and I'd really love to see that, you know, mature even more and just see what's forward on the horizon. So I think as long as the Power Platform keeps growing and you know, still passionate about it, I mean, I would love to stay here for a while and see that out and see how that plays out.
I mean, one thing you just touched on is obviously you're in a very small team. Just what's the demographic of the team? Is it just yourself as the only solo female, or is there?
Well, on the, you know, the advocacy team as a whole, you know, quite a few females on there. For the Power Platform team, we're, you know, lean and mean at the moment. It's myself, Homolomo, and David, full-time there, and we have Greg and Joe are kind of helping as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess on my immediate team, I am the only female at the moment, but we have, you know, females are well represented in advocacy as a whole.
I mean, obviously, I was talking to Donna yesterday. There is, you know, quite a lot of good technical women that are basically sit within Microsoft, that have basically been there for a long time. I've done so many different roles, and so some of them are technical and some are non-technical. But you know, it's great to see that Microsoft obviously know that, you know, there is roles there for not just women, but obviously people of color, people of disability. And just basically, you know, really promote that as an, you know, an organization.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I love and really respect about the company is just the diversity and how that really is top of mind. Making sure that everyone's represented here. We do have a very good mix of people from all kinds of identities, backgrounds, regions, and all of that. So it's a nice diverse organization.
Microsoft is really good, I think, in terms of having the people, the advocacy team. So you've got Laurie, yourself, and many others, Donna, who we spoke to recently as well, who are leading advocacy within the communities, which I think is awesome. So how do you think how does Microsoft from the top bottom lead? And I think they're leaders in terms of getting women within IT. How do they do that? How do they get so many great females from the community and get them working for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, for one, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where, if women see a lot of women in, high up positions, doing the thing in technology at an organization, then they're more likely to feel like there's a place for themselves there. So I think Microsoft's a good example of that. You have lots of women in very high level positions and just lots of women as a whole doing great things, like Donna obviously is one, Laura Podmeyer, Caruana. I mean, like, the list goes on and on of these great women there. So I think it's just, they're leading by example. Other women are seeing that.
Just about guests there as well.
Yeah.
So every single person name you mentioned, they've been on this podcast at some point. So, it's great. Obviously, you identify the people that, we have already spoke to, and, I'm going to basically try and get even more on this platform to basically come and speak, because it is massively important to have not just people from the community, but having the right people as well that want to basically share their stories and really have that passion, that drive to achieve bigger and greater things, because they they have the skills. They just sometimes just need that extra push or that support to basically go on and do more.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like I'm leaving so many people out. I don't know if you've had them on the show yet, but Heather Newman and Anna Chu. So I work pretty closely with them. They're on the Power Platform Advocacy team, community team. Anna just joined the community team, so just another great example.
We've had that one as well. Nice. So we've been going around the houses. I mean, if I actually shown you our guest list for probably the next 18 months, because I've got that many women I've been contacting, it's quite impressive. And I'm going to keep basically doing these podcasts and literally until I've interviewed every single woman that I possibly can from the Microsoft tech community. So I might be here a very long time. So I might have to get my dressing gown, my slippers, because I'm here for a long time.
Yeah, got your work cut out for you. You'll be busy for sure.
So obviously we spoke a bit about your future. We spoke about the past. I always like to basically throw an interview question into the mix as well. So, I mean, obviously from an early age, you've got involved in IT, building computers and stuff like that. But if you wasn't in IT, what do you think, or what did you see yourself doing?
Probably before I kind of figured out that I wanted to go into IT, I really thought that I wanted to be a teacher, because obviously. Which is kind of cool, because I'm doing that in a way now, I guess, with the YouTube channel and conferences and stuff. I'm kind of teaching people technology, but that's something I've always been passionate about. I just always loved, even in school, just helping other people, with their homework, tutoring. I did a lot of tutoring, like in school as well. So I really kind of felt passionate about that. I just, I don't know, the call for technology was greater than that, and I was able to find a spot where I could do a little bit of both. So probably maybe do some sort of teaching or something like that instead.
I thought you was going to go for singing in the band, but
well, I mean, if I thought I was good enough to make it in a band, but I mean, I'm okay, but I'm not that great to where I could actually make a living off of that. I'm realistic here.
But yes, on your YouTube channel, you mentioned that you're a karaoke queen, so you obviously have a bit of confidence about yourself.
That's just a joke because someone called me that before in the community. But no, I mean, I'm realistic. I'm not. I did try out for the. That should have put that on my fast fact about me there. I did try out for the voice, so that's how I know I'm not good enough because I only made it to round 2 and then I got knocked out there. So
So
I know.
I've got an interview question. That's not really an interview question. It's a bit of a trivia question. As you're self-proclaimed or claimed in the community karaoke, what's your #1 karaoke song?
Let's see. Probably, ironically, "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC. I like rock music a lot. So that for some reason that became kind of my go-to song there. Like the one I know that I was at a conference, the North American something summit, like Dynamic Summit. Anyways, in Orlando, like before COVID. So it's like one of the last conferences I went to, and they had an after party and they had karaoke. So that was one that I ended up singing. Although John Levex, he upstaged me in there by doing some Eminem. So I can't rap. I can't beat that. So.
Yeah, cool. So April, yeah, it's been amazing having you today. It's been a really good hour talking to you. So yeah, I'd just like to say goodbye and for today.
Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun talking with you. Thanks again for having me.
And if people want to reach out to you to potentially become their mentor, can they do that through Twitter or LinkedIn? Yeah,
definitely. Either one. My Twitter handle is just @April Dunnam, and LinkedIn, same. You can find me on there. So definitely happy to mentor anyone that is interested. So just reach out to me and we can figure it out.
Wicked. So yeah.
Cool. Once again,
thanks.
Great to have you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. Please make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button to help us promote our message. You can also follow us on Twitter @MSFT Spotlight, and we're also on LinkedIn, the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. And finally, we'd like to tell you a little bit about BitTitan and thank them for sponsoring this podcast.
Remote migrations start here. Let MigrationWiz do the work for you. It's fast, secure, and 100% SaaS, which means you can migrate at any time and from anywhere. Migrate mailboxes, documents, public folders, personal archives, or even Microsoft Teams with just a few clicks. No special training needed and no customer downtime. When the work matters, choose MigrationWiz.